There was a status quo which was broken by Hamas, meaning by the Islamic regime in Iran behind them and Hezbollah. And now we are in an interim situation where both camps, the United States and Israel and their Arab allies, on the one hand, trying to do the best they can to weaken, the bad guys, in this case, the Tehran regime.
Are we on the verge of a new Middle East? With the Iranian regime and its terror proxies weakened and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in D.C. this week meeting with President Trump, it seems that positive momentum is building. But while Iran's ring of fire is down, it's not yet out. Dr. Walid Phares is one of the world's top foreign policy experts, and when it comes to explaining the shifting sands of the Middle East, no one does it better. He's author of several best-selling books, including Iran, an Imperialist Republic, and U.S. Policy. He's also a Newsmax TV contributor and was a foreign policy advisor for President Trump during his first term. Walid joins us now. Walid, great to see you as always. Hey, peace through strength is back under President Trump. He's using American leverage to incredible effect in our hemisphere. But Walid, do you think it will work in the Middle East with the likes of the Iranian regime?
Basically, you have described it in your introduction. The Middle East will be changing, but let me explain it better for your audience. There was a status quo which was broken by Hamas, meaning by the Islamic regime in Iran behind them and Hezbollah. And now we are in an interim situation where both camps, the United States and Israel and their Arab allies, on the one hand, trying to do the best they can to weaken the bad guys, in this case, the Tehran regime. And on the other hand, of course, all these militias, starting with Hezbollah, Houthis, and now this Islamic, new regime in Damascus, we are, having a lot of question marks about it. So when that settles, then we're going to have the second Middle East that you're talking about. And what's happening today here in Washington is that the Prime Minister of Israel finally is coming to meet with a new administration, his friend Donald Trump. And they have had in the past, as we know, Eric, a lot of good joint decisions, but now the challenges are much bigger. So I agree with you. It is changing. We are in the middle of that change, and let's see what is going.
Yeah, Walid, you've written about this for years, a coming new Middle East, and a big part of that seems to be dealing with Iran's nuclear program. Walid, do you think that'll be the number one item on the agenda during these meetings?
Basically, I am imagining that both the Prime Minister of Israel and our president have been informed strategically by their agencies, by their associates, by the national security teams on both sides as to where are the challenges. I can imagine and can project, as you just said, this is not something new to us, to our conversations, that the Iran or the Islamic regime's nuclear threats, which is a weapon and more than a weapon, and missiles as well, is number one. And the question is going to be between the two leaders, what to do. What can I do? What can you do? What are the circumstances? But in addition to that threat, there are options. There are options that both Israel and the United States, maybe some allies, if they dare come to the front, need to consider. Number one, hitting that nuclear weapon, those infrastructure. Some would say in Washington, yes, but China now will run in and will help them build another. Yes, we would gain 6 months, but that's an option. Second option is basically to hit the oil infrastructure. Many senators here, including Senator Graham, have been calling for it, but same thing. World has changed. The alliance between Tehran, Beijing, Moscow, North Korea, all of that is something new to consider. So we're going to be, asking the question, will that be enough? A third one, which I heard a lot about over the past few weeks, is we or the United States or Israel or both will hit the command centers of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, the famous, infamous Sepah Pasdaran, the Islamic regime-owned SS, if you want. If that happened under any condition, then you may see what? You may see a revolt.
Yeah, this seems like a golden opportunity, Walid. If the U.S., Israel were to hit those nuclear facilities, look, Iran's air defenses have been destroyed. Their ring of fire is kind of a smoldering heap of ruins right now. This seems to be the time. About a minute left before the break, then we will bring you right back. Any chance of an Iran nuclear deal? President Trump is the ultimate deal maker. Any chance of an Iran nuclear deal that's actually a positive thing and not destructive like we saw under Obama?
In the mind of President Trump, that's what he will seek first. He always gives a chance. Now, if the regime says no, or if the regime says wait, or if the regime stretches the negotiations while on the ground trying to threaten Israel or Arab allies, then even that New Deal will be off the table and we'll back to square one.
Yeah. Be sure to follow Walid on X and across social media. But another subject you know very well is Hezbollah. Now, the world's most lethal terror organization has really been smashed over the past few months. What is their situation right now, Walid? How weakened is Hezbollah? And will they not pose the sort of existential threat that they once did anytime soon?
Eric, you and I discussed Hezbollah for many years, before and after 9/11 and on. So we all know that Hezbollah is the premier terrorist organization around the world. Used to get hundreds of millions of dollars from the regime for many, many, many years. It controlled most of Lebanon, I would say all of Lebanon, till the war with Israel. It even controlled large sections of Syria. Hezbollah was a superpower organization, terrorist organization. Yeah. Now, two things weakened Hezbollah, but did not eliminate Hezbollah, and still a threat. Number one is the war with Israel. They chose to do war with Israel. They saw something that is unbelievable, the Pager campaign, the elimination of their leaders. Bottom line, very quickly, that actually took away from Hezbollah its offensive weapons on Israel. They can still pull something if the Islamic regime in Iran does or order them. The second problem they had, which is a change of regime in Syria. So Assad is gone. So, the map is that Hezbollah get its weapons, ammunition, and money and everything else from a land bridge that is from Iran to Iraq to Syria to Lebanon. So basically now, Hezbollah is a super Hamas encircled in a super Gaza in southern Lebanon. They have enough weapons to damage the Lebanese, but not enough anymore to damage the Israelis unless they use the long-range ICBMs into Israel. They need 2-3 minutes to get into the Galilee or even all the way to Tel Aviv. So this is why it should become a very important priority for the Prime Minister and the President here in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, Walid, great breakdown. Of course, you are a native of Lebanon. You know the country very well. You mentioned Syria, this new jihadi regime in Damascus, al-Qaeda linked, and Turkey seeming to want to make inroads there as well, Walid. Why should the free world be concerned about developments there?
Because we need to be smarter than what happened in Eastern Europe when the East Europeans were liberated from the Soviet Union, and then they said, this is great, we have the future for us. 3 years later, the Soviet Union occupied East Jerusalem and suppressed them for 5-6 decades. Something similar has happened in Syria. So these jihadists in Syria, offshoot from Al-Qaeda, offshoot from Jabhat al-Nusra, and from others, have, at the end of the day, with Assad, at the end of their war with Assad, formed an enclave in Idlib in the northwest, backed by the Turks. Out of nowhere, they just did a coup d'etat by waging a war that took major cities. All the major cities in Syria now are in their hands, and then reached Damascus and then declared themselves as the new government. Nobody elected them. No, there was no vote. There was no UN. There was no nothing. But reality, for the public to understand, this is a jihadi force. And that jihadi force is approaching Israel from the north. And there are Druze, armed Druze between them and Israel, which opens another file we can discuss later. Yeah. And then they want to go against the Kurds. So that's a problematic that we didn't have. It's a very delicate situation because it involves Turkey, as we just mentioned, which backs them and is a NATO member and has a very large army and could take action against the Kurds who are protected by us.
Walid, Turkey is a big, big problem. And you mentioned the jihadi leopards don't change their spots. The new leader in Damascus can wear a suit and tie, but he's the same jihadi. Speaking of which, the Houthis in Yemen, you've been talking about this as well, Walid. It seems that should be also a big topic when Trump and Bibi meet this week. The Houthis have kind of been a thorn in the side, not only to Israel, but to global shipping. Now that President Trump is back in office, could we see some decisive action against that Iranian proxy?
I agree with you. The first file where I see immediate decisive action with a consensus behind, not just Israel, which is bombarded by the Houthis from Yemen, southern Red Sea, but also from the United States by this president, who is now playing a very delicate game of, re-strengthening international economy and the American role in that international economy. And the Houthis, out of nowhere, are lobbing missiles on the shipping line coming through the Red Sea. I do expect that this would be, on the menu between the two leaders, but also Arab leaders would be interested. I mean, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Bahrain, Jordan are all, very disappointed with the past 4 years by the Biden administration, because it allowed the Houthis to target international navigation. And now is the time for President Trump to issue probably a very important threat to the Houthis. And by the way, just to mention this and end it here, the Trump administration on day one, on Executive Order 1, brought back the Houthis to the terror list, which is something that was a big mistake made by the Biden administration.
Yeah, no doubt. The Trump effect is in full effect. And Walid, you just gave us a great breakdown. Folks, you can catch him on Newsmax TV, where he's a contributor. Also pick up Iran, an imperialist republic, and U.S. policy. Walid, always great to see you, my friend. God bless. We will see you again soon. Stakelbeck Tonight, my all-new nightly series on current events through a bold biblical lens. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss an upload, and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time a new video is posted. And don't forget to share your thoughts, insights, and comments below. Thanks for watching, and God bless.